Please note that the content of this video may contain errors. If you would like to view subtitles, please click the subtitle button at the bottom right of the screen. Now, let's begin our topic, the life of Torataro Yoshimura. The life of Torataro Yoshimura, a patriot who left his mark on Japanese history. Unraveling his turbulent life reveals the many great accomplishments he achieved. Japan at the end of the Edo period was undergoing a period of great change both domestically and internationally. It all began in 1853, when American Commodore Perry arrived in Uraga with his black ships. While the great powers expanded into Asia, Japan maintained a policy of isolation. Perry's arrival was a powerful blow that pried open the door. This incident sparked a heated debate within Japan, dividing the nation over whether to open the country or expel foreigners. In response to this situation, the Edo shogunate initially suppressed some of the forces advocating expulsion of foreigners, but eventually, the 1854 Treaty of Peace and Amity between Japan and the United States was concluded, paving the way for the opening of the country. However, this gradually undermined the shogunate's authority. While the economic benefits and Western technology brought by opening the country were certainly attractive, at the same time, it also posed the risk of threatening traditional Japanese values. As many feudal lords and patriots rose up calling for the expulsion of foreigners, the shogunate struggled to respond, deepening the chaos within. Against this backdrop, how to deal with foreign powers and how to continue governing within the country became urgent issues for the shogunate. The then chief advisor, Ieyasu, implemented authoritarian rule in an attempt to maintain the shogunate's prestige. But the result was the Ansei Purge, symbolized by the Sakuradaman incident. The Gate incident. The shogunate's hardline stance provoked a backlash from anti-foreigner patriots. The domestic situation became increasingly unstable with frequent assassinations and uprisings. During this period, the actions of the Satsuma and Choshu domains are particularly noteworthy. After the Anglo-Satsuma War with Britain, the Satsuma domain became acutely aware of the limitations of expulsion of foreigners. It gradually shifted to a policy of opening the country to the world, and its dissatisfaction with the shogunate grew. Meanwhile, the Choshu clan further strengthened its support for the imperial restoration and expelling of foreigners' ideology, as quoted in Tsurugi Yusa, as a way of life for the Choshu clan. This led to the Shimonoseki War. As a result, the intentions of each clan became intertwined, and the political situation at the end of the Edo period became extremely complicated. The turbulent period at the end of the Edo period was not simply a civil war. It was a period of trial and error as Japan sought to determine how it should proceed on its path to modernization. By learning about the background of the many patriots who risked their lives to usher in a new era during the period in which Torataro Yoshimura was active, you will gain a deeper understanding of their struggles and achievements. Torataro Yoshimura was born in 1846, during the turbulent period of the late Edo period. His hometown was Higo Domain, present-day Kumamoto Prefecture. Higo Domain, located in a corner of Kyushu, is a region steeped in tradition and culture. During this period of great change, political tensions hung in the air. Yoshimura grew up in this area, where he spent his impressionable childhood. From a young age, he studied at a domain school established by the domain. A domain school was a place where the children of domain samurai were educated, and they taught not only the culture of the samurai, but also academic subjects centered on Confucianism. Han schools were places where the children of feudal lords were educated. They not only provided the necessary education for samurai, but also academic studies centered on Confucianism. During the time Yoshimura studied, there was a growing sense of crisis, particularly regarding economic hardship and foreign pressure. Young people were expected to have a broad perspective and the ability to adapt to the new era. Interestingly, the domain school that Torataro Yoshimura attended actively absorbed new academic studies, ideas, and even information from abroad. This education went beyond mere knowledge impartation. It also included a philosophy of how one should live and how society should be transformed. Also, during this period, the nationwide movement to revere the emperor and expel the barbarians began to take hold in the Higo domain. While it is unclear how Yoshimura was influenced by this movement, what he learned at the domain school and the educational system of the time undoubtedly laid the foundation for the many activities he would later accomplish. Even at a young age, he foresaw the changing times and developed a strong interest in building new values. Through his work as a domain samurai, Torataro Yoshimura gradually became devoted to the idea of revering the emperor and expelling the barbarians. At the time, Japan was under increasing pressure from the great powers, forcing it to open its borders. In this climate, Yoshimura, as a young samurai, felt a strong need to fight to protect the country's independence. His aspirations were rooted in respecting the traditions of the domain, while also facing reality head-on and seeking new paths. His activism began in earnest when he assumed an important position within the domain at a young age. While fulfilling his role within the domain, Yoshimura gradually turned his attention to national initiatives. At the time, patriots calling for the restoration of imperial rule and the expulsion of foreigners were active throughout Japan. Each movement had diverse goals and methods. Yoshimura deeply considered these movements and began to search for his own path. Yoshimura will carefully consider these trends and seek his own path forward. Yoshimura's particular focus was on promoting domestic reforms while countering foreign threats. Dissatisfaction with the shogunate's weak foreign policy was spreading among patriots throughout the country. Yoshimura also became increasingly aware of his role as a member of that movement. His activities included engaging in dialogue both within and outside his domain, and seeking cooperation with patriots from other domains. His influence gradually grew. In particular, cooperation with the Choshu and Satsuma domains was a major driving force behind his activities. This was also the result of his flexible thinking and beliefs resonating with other samurai. He went beyond mere hostility and attempted to unite the powers of each domain for a greater purpose. This diplomatic talent would also lead to the activities Yoshimura would later demonstrate. With the noble cause of revering the emperor and expelling the barbarians in his heart, his patriot activities gained even more momentum. Yoshimura Torataro's deep involvement with the Choshu clan was fueled by political movements during the period of change at the end of the Edo period. His goal was to lead Japan in a better direction under the banner of Sano Joy revere the emperor, expel the barbarians. To achieve this, he needed to gather like-minded allies from across the country. During the turbulent period at the end of the Edo period, the Choshu clan rapidly gained influence as a force opposing the Tokugawa shogunate. In particular, the Choshu clan's active promotion of Sano Joy revere the emperor, expel the barbarians made them an ideal partner for Yoshimura. Amidst all this, Yoshimura deepened his relationship with Takayoshi Kato, also known as Kagoro Katsura, a key figure in the Choshu clan. Kagoro Katsura had a close relationship with Ryoma and was known as a meticulous strategist. To become his right-hand man, Yoshimura worked to gain the support of the Choshu clan, as they worked together to strategize. They built a strong relationship of trust. This relationship proved extremely important during the turbulent period of the late Edo period. Together, the two devised and implemented various strategies to create a new world. In particular, Yoshimura, together with Katsura and other Choshu patriots, formulated a concrete plan to overthrow the shogunate and worked tirelessly to realize it. During this period, the Choshu clan, despite facing pressure from the shogunate, sought to strengthen internal unity and adhere to its own beliefs. By working alongside such strong-willed Choshu clan members, Yoshimura was able to maintain his lofty aspirations. I was able to continue to have higher aspirations. Through his interactions with the Choshu clan, Torataro Yoshimura became an indispensable figure in the restoration of the late Edo period. Through his activities with the Choshu clan, Torataro Yoshimura further elevated his ambitions and took the next step. That new path was cooperation with the Satsuma clan. During the turbulent times of the late Edo period, the Satsuma clan boasted an important political and military power. Takamori Seigo was its leading figure. Seigo, with his outstanding leadership and strategic thinking, became a central figure in the Sano Joy movement and held the key to revolutionizing the country. Yoshimura aimed to build a relationship of trust with the Satsuma domain through negotiations with Seigo Takamori. Seigo's passion and conviction, as well as his experience and achievements in the Choshu domain, attracted Seigo's interest. During this period, Seigo Takamori began to see the benefits of allying with the Choshu domain. This was because cooperation between the Satsuma and Choshu clans had the potential to create a solid force that could oppose the shogunate. Through his interactions with Yoshimura, Seigo quickly realized that Yoshimura was not just an idealist, but a practical patriot with concrete actions. Yoshimura also highly valued the Satsuma clan's military and diplomatic strength, and worked hard to build a cooperative relationship that would maximize each other's strengths. Against this backdrop, the two clans deepened their ties and began to explore avenues for further cooperation. This cooperative relationship sometimes faced difficult negotiations and obstacles. For example, within the Satsuma domain, there were factions that favored cooperation with the shogunate. Not all samurai were aligned in the same direction. However, the strong will and ideals of Yoshimura and Seigo served as the driving force behind overcoming these internal divisions. However, Yoshimura and Seigo's strong will and ideals became the driving force that overcame these internal divisions. Reforms were also underway within the Satsuma domain during this period. The forces centered around Seigo Takamori were gaining influence within the domain, creating an environment in which to promote more innovative policies. Yoshimura keenly responded to these developments and deepened his relationship with Seigo, further solidifying his tangible relationship. In this way, cooperation with the Satsuma domain marked a major turning point for Yoshimura Torataro and became an important foundation supporting his aspirations. In Japan during the late Edo period, when Yoshimura Torataro was active, the idea of revering the emperor and expelling the barbarians was spreading. This idea emphasized the respect for the emperor and the elimination of foreign intrusions. Following Commodore Perry's arrival in 1853, Japan was forced to open its doors to the world. However, many patriots opposed foreign powers and began taking action to protect Japan's independence. Amid this, Torataro Yoshimura began to distinguish himself as a patriot. Yoshimura became deeply involved in the Sano Joy movement through his alliance with the Satsuma domain, in particular by building strong relationships with the Choshu clan, which had been strongly resisting the central shogunate. He established his position in the movement. His actions sought to shift the focus from mere expulsion of foreigners, developing into a new stage that included political reform. Around this time, intense debate was taking place within the Choshu clan. There was a growing call for the use of force to carry out expulsion of foreigners. Yoshimura was acutely aware of this movement and intensified his efforts to influence his allies. As a result, the anti-foreign movement gradually shifted to a movement to overthrow the shogunate. Particularly noteworthy is how Yoshimura deepened his ties with patriots in various regions. What is particularly noteworthy is how Yoshimura deepened ties with patriots across the country. The key point is how he built a network. Through his deepening connections, he further strengthened his ties with Satsuma domain leaders Seigo Takamori and Okubo Toshimichi. There's no doubt that this network of contacts proved to be an important asset in the later movement to overthrow the shogunate. Furthermore, Yoshimura actively participated in the Kinmen incident of 1864. His campaign went beyond simply calling for the expulsion of foreigners to develop into a concrete movement aimed at overthrowing the government. During this period, Yoshimura keenly felt the ineffectiveness of the anti-foreign movement. He became increasingly convinced that the corruption within the shogunate needed to be reformed. His voice gradually grew louder, drawing in more and more people. He became recognized as a central figure in the movement that led to the Meiji Restoration. Yoshimura's actions were a pivotal step that significantly changed the course of history. Yoshimura Torataro's meeting with Takasugi Shinsaku truly marked a turning point in history. The backdrop to these two men's meeting was the smoldering situation in Japan at the end of the Edo period. As cracks began to appear in the Tokugawa shogunate's long rule, calls for reverence for the emperor and expulsion of foreigners grew louder. The patriots gradually shifted their focus to overthrowing the shogunate. Yoshimura and Takasugi met over a shared goal: to lead the Tosa and Choshu clans against the shogunate. Takasugi Shinsaku was a central figure in the reformist faction of the Choshu clan, a charismatic young leader and an advocate of expelling foreigners. His drive and charisma attracted many patriots and spread an unyielding stance against the shogunate. Torataro strongly resonated with Takasugi's reformist attitude. Takasugi was surrounded by patriots who were dissatisfied with the complex circumstances of their domain and the pressures of the shogunate. It is particularly important to note that during this period, the Choshu domain was under direct pressure from the shogunate. To counter this, new military reforms were needed. To successfully implement these reforms, external support from the Tosa clan was essential. Both men chose to change Japan's future through military force. Yoshimura is believed to have been greatly influenced by Takasugi's proposal to establish the Kiheitai. The Kiheitai drew members from a wide range of backgrounds, including merchants and farmers, in addition to traditional samurai. It was known for its flexible organizational structure. Yoshimura was inspired by Takasugi Shinsaku's realistic yet revolutionary military organization and decided to join in. Furthermore, through his interactions with Takasugi Shinsaku, Yoshimura was inspired to think beyond simply overthrowing the shogunate through military force, and to consider what a new nation should look like. The discussions and many plans between the two men were based on meticulous strategies that were never made public. The content of these discussions has attracted attention as an intriguing area of research in recent years. Yoshimura Torataro's encounter with Takasugi, a moment that remains in Japanese history today, broadened his perspective. It influenced his actions until his death. Yoshimura Torataro achieved many accomplishments as a patriot during the turbulent end of the Edo period. His activities were not merely those of an individual, they played a part in moving the times forward. The stage in which he flourished was undergoing rapid change, and his actions were always closely intertwined with the times. His patriotism was based on a belief in the noble cause of reverence for the emperor and expulsion of foreigners, and his efforts to bring about change in a turbulent Japan. Following this ideal, Yoshimura took action with many comrades. Particularly noteworthy is his close ties with the Choshu clan. He worked with Choshu samurai to carry out the expulsion of foreigners, but the preparations were fraught with difficulties. To devise a concrete strategy, Yoshimura held secret meetings with influential figures in the Choshu domain. Among them was Takasugi Shinsaku, known for his ardent support for Sono Joy. Some of the plans he worked on with Takasugi Shinsaku involved actually leading troops. They sought to assemble new forces unbound by the domain. Planning a military operation posed numerous challenges, including securing supply lines, obtaining weapons, and training troops. Preparation faced numerous obstacles. Even so, they sometimes transcended the boundaries of their domains and succeeded in gaining the cooperation of the Satsuma domain. The alliance forged through this effort went beyond the actions of a single domain and became a nationwide movement. It played a part in generating a major wave of support for the overthrow of the shogunate. Yoshimura Torataro's tireless efforts to promote the cause of reverence for the emperor and expel the barbarians were the foundation of his resolve not to rely on military force. His actions, which continued to resist the tides of the times, will remain deeply engraved in the hearts of future generations. However, not all plans went smoothly. Many conflicts and betrayals awaited him. Especially when leading his troops, he faced unexpected failures and internal discord. He was sometimes forced to revise his plans. However, with each challenge he overcame, Yoshimura and his comrades strengthened their bonds and began to employ more advanced tactics. His actions were not merely violent, but also inspired the people's desire for change. Ultimately, they led to major changes at the end of the Edo period. As his ties with the Satsuma clan deepened, Torataro Yoshimura resolved to overthrow the shogunate. Through his interactions with the Choshu clan, he made many acquaintances. His knowledge and experience gradually translated into concrete action. In the late 1860s, Japan was undergoing a period of drastic change. At this time, with the shogunate's power weakening and pro-imperial, anti-foreign factions across the country uniting, Yoshimura and his allies devised a plan for how to overthrow the shogunate. Yoshimura and his team first focused on gathering information. To grasp the movements of the Edo shogunate, they sent in spies to closely investigate the shogunate's domestic and international strategies. Based on this information, they relocated their base to Kyoto, a hotbed of political activity, and began their operations from there. Although Kyoto was under the close watch of the shogunate, and any missteps meant they risked arrest, Kyoto was an essential location for securing a route to its core. Now, the cooperation of the Satsuma domain marked a turning point in the plan to overthrow the shogunate. The Satsuma domain, which at the time produced such renowned figures as Seigo Takamori and Okubo Toshimichi, resonated with Yoshimura and his men's ideals. They secretly supported their activities by providing weapons and funds. Then, one night in 1871, Yoshimura's troops finally rose up. Their plan was swift and reckless. Their plan was to launch a surprise attack to instantly overwhelm the shogunate's leadership. However, the shogunate was not completely defenseless. Having learned from several failures, they also excelled in information warfare and had detected Yoshimura and his men's movements in advance. Shogunate forces launched an ambush and put up a much stronger resistance than expected. Yoshimura immediately took command and shifted to a strategy of dividing his troops and breaking out of the encirclement. However, the fire spread quickly, and with no way to escape, Yoshimura and his men were gradually cornered. During this, Yoshimura ordered his comrades to retreat and acted as a decoy, striving to keep as many of his comrades alive as possible. This final battle was one in which he risked his own life to save many of his comrades. This was Torataro Yoshimura's final battle. His actions later impressed many supporters of the imperial restoration and sparked new movements throughout Japan. This battle, which accelerated the flow toward the Meiji Restoration, has been passed down to future generations as a vivid example of the strong unity of the patriots and the tenacity of the shogunate in its opposition. After the Meiji Restoration, the perception of the patriots who survived such turbulent times rapidly changed. In particular, talented figures like Torataro Yoshimura have been re-evaluated and passed down through the generations. After his death, as Japan entered a new era, how was his achievement viewed? Yoshimura held an important position in the then-current philosophy of reverence for the emperor and expulsion of foreigners. His name is now known to everyone, as he expanded the emperor's influence and made clear the rebellion against the shogunate. Especially during the Boshin War, his achievements were highly praised among many patriots, and his contributions to the Meiji Restoration were widely praised. Later, he was increasingly viewed as a hero. However, with the establishment of the new government after the Meiji Restoration, Yoshimura's value was in danger of being relegated to a relic of the past. As the new government accelerated westernization and modernization, the former ideology of revering the emperor and expelling foreigners was gradually forced to change. As the new government accelerated westernization and modernization, the former idea of reverence for the emperor and expulsion of foreigners was gradually forced to change. Even so, Yoshimura's name continued to feature in many history books and news reports. His activities are now seen not simply as an anti-shogunate movement, but as a change in consciousness aimed at transforming Japan. In particular, his interactions with those he influenced and his contemporaries have drawn attention. The extent to which they influenced Japanese politics and worldview has been recognized, and his achievements have been re-evaluated in the fields of education and culture. Furthermore, even after his death, documents and testimonies from others continue to attest to his patriotism, and even today, his name maintains its reputation as a patriot. New historical research and discoveries have further clarified the breadth of Yoshimura Torataro's influence, solidifying his place in history. The ideals, beliefs, and actions that Yoshimura Torataro pursued are now recognized as crucial to Japanese cultural history. Many people recognize this. The legacy that Yoshimura Torataro left behind continues to influence the present day, transcending the turbulent times in which he lived. His presence was essential to the movement to overthrow the shogunate, especially as the era shifted dramatically from reverence for the emperor and expulsion of foreigners to the overthrow of the shogunate. Torataro's actions and ideals inspired many patriots. After his death, his ideas were passed down to many successors, ultimately playing a key role in the Meiji Restoration. One of Torataro's legacies is his vision for the future. He believed that in order for Japan to defeat the great powers, it needed to break away from military rule and strengthen its economic and technological strength. This influenced Japan's later modernization efforts and played a part in preparing for the Meiji Restoration. Furthermore, Torataro Yoshimura's name became widely known through his close ties with the Satsuma and Choshu domains. Yoshimura Torataro's name also became widely known through his close ties with the Satsuma and Choshu domains. His communication skills and diplomatic sense served as a model for many patriots, and served as a model for how to unite different factions. This contributed to the alliance between Choshu and Satsuma and the foundation for subsequent political cooperation. Historically, Yoshimura Torataro is remembered not simply as a warrior, but also as a man whose ideology inspired many. His ideals, seen as relevant to the development of democracy in Japan after the war, have been featured in various history books and research. Furthermore, recent research has led to a re-evaluation of his influence. The documents and materials he left behind reveal how widely accepted his ideals were. Torataro Yoshimura's influence extends beyond his time. The spirit and actions he demonstrated throughout his life continue to inspire many generations to come. Those who inherited his aspirations will no doubt use his ideals to lead Japan in a better direction. I believe Torataro Yoshimura is a man who left a profound mark on history with his strong convictions as a patriot. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and rate it.